Hey everybody, it's MJ Conroy, aka Sith Lord 066, coming with you with another podcast. At least after a year, we attempted many more. Maybe we'll get into that, probably not. But with me, as always, is the Dale to my chip, Mr. Nate Plant. How are you, Nate?
What's up, guys?
And we do have a special guest with us today, the fat cat to our Chip and Dale, Mr. Kevin Crimin.
What's going on?
All right. Not much, man. How you been?
Been doing well.
Speaking of well, let's get into the first topic. Holy crap, dude. Look at all the views. How did you manage that?
Yeah, it's been a pretty good year. Slowed down a little bit, but this channel's still coming along fairly decent. So happy about, just passing 1.5 million views?
Yeah, it was like about a month ago, I think.
Yep.
No thanks to us, right, Mike?
How many of those are yours? 1.2 million?
I don't know, something. Like, I've had so many goddamn issues with my computer, and we had about, Nate? Seriously, 4 podcasts that we actually recorded.
I'm not sure, but I know
2.5
there's 2 sitting on my old computer, just,
Then there was the
storage.
one from the Ether,
Yeah.
and then there was the one I did, too. So there was about 4 podcasts we've actually, I swear to God, dude, we've recorded, and just something wrong would happen.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Very true.
Hopefully that doesn't happen this time.
Yeah, no, this one is going up for sure. Kevin will make sure of it, I assume.
So, wow, 1.5. And then you got, 10,000 subscribers?
Yeah, just passed the 10,000 subscriber milestone, which is pretty good. Especially for, I still consider myself kind of a niche topic within Magic the Gathering, so I'm happy to hit those numbers. I mean, it's probably a lot easier to get higher subs when you have more broad topic and do a lot of box openings or things like that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're basically the niche of a niche.
Yep.
As far as markets go.
I think it's a robust niche, though. I mean,
yeah.
Rogue deck builders are kind of, they band together, right?
Yep. Well, that's
Like
the one thing.
behind
It's been a good experience there that now whenever anyone says the term rogue deck, I'm somehow associated with it. So
That's unfortunate.
I'm happy.
Everyone
happy to have
says
that
Conley
little
Woods. Sorry.
Yeah. I'd probably actually put you probably in around number 3.
Yeah.
Because I would probably say Conley is number 1, and then number 2, I'd probably say Travis Wu.
Yeah. I'll go with that. There's a few other more Johnny types players that have done quite well in the Pro Tours in the past. But I think Conley and Travis are only the true Johnny type.
Oh yeah.
Have some of these
I
spikes
was actually really disappointed that I didn't get to see like a Conley Wood kick-ass deck that had, you know what I mean, like the quote-unquote bad cards, but he really didn't play one this time.
Wait, see, I saw him. Didn't he only win one game the entire Pro Tour?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. They all, like a lot of my favorite players did awful.
Yeah. How did your
balls.
favorite players do it at Pro Tour?
It was pretty
Frank
brutal.
and
Frank isn't qualified till Washington.
Oh right, okay.
Melissa had a horrible day 1, and actually was eliminated day 1 for the first time ever. But I mean, they were in Hawaii, so it's not like it's a fail.
Yeah, really.
like it was funny because like
sweet vacation, right?
They were talking about like, oh, we're going to record things, and I like sent them a message like, hey, why don't you just enjoy your time in Hawaii and take your vacation? Because they were like talking about, there were people complaining that they weren't doing like their normal Monday and Friday videos on TCG Player, and I was like, you got a Pro Tour, calm down. So
yeah, I mean, I did see that the Channel Fireball guys were enjoying themselves on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like Brian, a lot of the big time pros didn't do so great. I guess we'll talk about Pro Tour now.
Yeah.
Like Brian Kibler even was eliminated pretty early. I seen like LSV maybe once or twice show up in a feature match area.
They were at least watching him at the very first a lot. Because he was playing a different deck, I guess is what you'd call it.
I was surprised at their deck choice, honestly. Anyways, we were talking about Channel Fireball's choice of decks at Pro Tour. They chose to play Jeskai Ascendancy combo, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Like I watched the Pro Tour a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
I didn't
know
watch
that's
what LSD was on for sure.
Yeah, I think that's what the I guess the main Channel Fireball guys played, which is like LSV's group, and the Pantheon guys decided to play Blue Black Control, which I don't know how Blue Black Control did. I know one of them got into the top 8, or one of the Blue Black Control variants got into the top 8. But
yeah, that was this not Stanislav Sivka, the last Pro Tour winner.
Yeah,
but it was Stanislav Sivka was the creator of that version of the Blue Black. So
right.
Yeah,
I
kind of disappointed to see that deck do that well. To be honest, I'm not a big fan of really long control games. So
I'm the same way a lot of times, but I also do like me some dig through times and trader cruises from this set. Yeah. So, but I will say that I was glad that the top 8 was pretty varied.
Yeah, and the Blue-Black Control, I've been looking at the list, and I've played against it now with a variety of different decks, and it's got major holes in it. It's not like the Esper Control or the UI Control variants from last season. They were pretty complete decks. This one definitely does have some angles that you can... I mean, there are certain decks that can just run right over it.
I mean, yeah, I noticed that from my own testing. I was building some of the, brewing with some of the decks with MJ before, definitely Control. Not feeling it this season at all. It's just not a good archetype, I don't think.
It's usually not good though in the first set. That's what got me surprised that it did so well. This is aggro's time.
It's also it seems like it's leaning towards going to be like a colorless set next set, or banking on colorless. So I don't think that leaning so heavily on blue black is going to be a good idea necessarily going forward. But you never know. I mean, whatever cards can get printed, but if Ugin's like some Karn-like planeswalker, we're going to see some wild and crazy things probably out of the control side.
Oh yeah, especially how slow the format. Well, originally I did think the format was quite slow, but now with cards like Manus Rider and Still Soak the Flames, those Jeskai decks can end the game very quickly.
Yeah, I don't think it was quite as slow as I thought. I think everyone was thinking it was going to be like all of the Courser of Crew fixes and Sylvan Caryatids, but those decks didn't seem to do very well.
No mono green made top 8, I don't believe, right?
I don't have a list in front of me. But...
Yeah, I don't think there was one.
No,
I think there was a lot of Jeskai mid-range decks, and there's 3 Jeskai mid-range decks, a Ascendancy combo deck, a blue-black control, 2 Abzan mid-range decks, and then 1, I believe, Abzan aggro, or something like that. I don't think there was a green devotion, which that actually made my day, because I was getting sick of playing against mono green devotion every other game on MTGO. So
yeah. I honestly haven't been playing very much MTGO, so I wouldn't be able to feel your pain there, but I will say that I was expecting way more Courser decks than there were, but although there probably was a lot of them, we just didn't see because a lot of the pros built their decks specifically to counter those decks.
Yep, exactly.
Although it is refreshing to see, even though there was a lot of Jeskai in the top 8 and doing well in the tournament, like it was all different like decks. It wasn't just like Delver back in Innistrad, Mirrodin Standard, which was just like straight all the same deck. Like there was like one card different between them. No, there was a lot of difference between these decks.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
I think there was disagreement about what cards were good inside of them too. Like Dig Through Time versus like the more aggressive Stoke the Flames and stuff.
Yep. Or even you can even compare Dig Through Time with even Divination. We had a lot of people on the original U Black control list just going with Divinations, thinking that Dig would be too hard to utilized, or maybe just going down to one of. But now we've seen most lists just see the power of Delve. I think that, again, Wizards might have underestimated the power of Delve, which I think they would know from the last time Delve was around that it was quite powerful, even if they did make the mana cost absurdly high, like with Dig Through Time.
I'm not sure if Wizards underestimated the power level of Delve. I think a lot of people actually underestimated the power level of Delve just coming in.
Well,
because...
I don't think that, looking back, I don't think if they knew the impact of like Treasure Cruise on Legacy, I don't know if they would actually.
Yeah.
They might make that a double blue or something, because it's this set is really shaking up Legacy, or at least, I mean, there hasn't been a major tournament, but from what I've seen with Legacy and Modern to an extent, that cards like the Pro S and the Delve are really shaking up Legacy.
Well, I think that's actually really good for Magic. I mean, people can play with their new cards and don't necessarily aren't confined it. And I mean, we're not even mentioning the fetch lands part, but that's obviously a real big shakeup to Legacy and Modern, but mostly to Legacy, honestly, because Modern really, like, extra fetch lands don't really impact the format that much.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
some of the mana fixing gets a little bit better, but not.
Yeah, Pod just doesn't have to use Misty Rainforest. They can use it's more on color, but again, it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
No.
The decks in Modern don't change that much from the fetches, but the fact that fetches were reprinted...
get people into Modern is the thing, because now they don't need the $75 fetch lands they can pick up. I mean, even look at like Jund. Jund can now use Bloodmires instead of the Verdant Havens.
Definitely.
And it will do just the same. You can go still first turn, grab your Overgrown Tomb or whatever you need to grab.
Well, I think that's even more important for Legacy, because all of the fetches were like $70, right?
Yeah, they were getting up there.
Yeah, but it's still expensive based upon the original duels are very pricey.
Right.
And I mean, I guess you can substitute those for Shocklands, but
right.
Again, it's when people want to get tuned down to the point where it's as tuned as it can get. That's when it starts getting expensive.
Though on Magic Online, the price of Legacy has gone way down.
Yes and no. I mean, what happened with Vintage Masters is it made a lot of other staple cards, like Gristlebrand went crazy. And there were a few cards that weren't printed in the Vintage Masters that...
Yeah, people are speculating on those, but... I mean, like, actual...
I think it brought a lot of people into the format. The Legacy queues were firing a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And they never used to fire.
Building mana bases is, like, so much cheaper on Magic Online now than it used to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Now it's actually possible to play a Legacy match without, dropping, like, $500 just to get the land bases.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, man. I was really happy when the Grizzlebrands spiked, just because I already had, like, 3 of them. And it's part of the reason I have a computer now.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we've done a fair bit of rambling. You want to get us back on topic?
Yeah.
Sure. I don't even know where we're at.
Right, so
we're still talking about this. Is still kind of on topic with what we think about cons. Yeah. So I mean, I'm loving the set. This has been. I probably say this every time a new set comes out. I mean, I've done this for the past few ones, but I think this is one of my favorite draft formats, if not my favorite draft format, because I think it's wide open. Your options are very... The only thing is it's high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
Oh,
you can get cut out very easily in this.
We did a draft, actually, that we ended up not even...
Well, I don't think that draft was that bad. I think we were just way out of it in that draft.
Yeah.
Like, we were just, like, not feeling the energy at all.
For the record, like, it was early in the morning for me.
Yeah.
After working midnight, Nate's, like, the time frame I had him was, like, pretty much I had to come home from work, take, like, an hour and a half nap, and then wake up to do a draft with him, and, like, it was brutal.
And I'm like building, like, a sweet, like, 5-color morph deck, like, going, like, real deep, and, like, I'm just getting, like, nothing back from him, so I'm like, oh, God, this is going to be a train wreck.
Yeah, it pretty much was a train wreck. Not necessarily. Well, I mean, yeah, the deck itself was pretty much a train wreck.
No,
also,
the deck wasn't that bad.
You got owned, dude.
I didn't get owned.
Owned.
It was a close match. That I only lost because of time, if you remember.
You were losing anyway. You lost.
I
the first game.
I was winning last game. It was 1-1. It was 1-1, and I lost the time.
We never got to this. It was only game 2, dude. You never got to game 3.
You're misremembering, but that's okay. It's besides the point. The point is this draft format is sweet, and you can do crazy things.
Yeah, it's you can go any color combination you want. I went black-red in my last draft, and it worked out very well. I just saw a bunch of costed, in my opinion, more of the bomb cards. The 3/2, the 2/1 raid guy that becomes a 3/2, and then had a bunch of I was trying to go Mardu, but then nothing white was worth actually putting in my deck. And I've noticed a few of the pros did that at the Pro Tour as well, that they started to go maybe like a Jeskai strategy and then end up cutting one of the colors and just staying with 2 colors, because the mana base is a lot. If you go especially aggro and you don't have to rely on getting those fixers, you can actually take over a game. Like Valley Dasher, I've done like 8 to 10 damage a lot of times before they can actually even deal with it. And then sometimes you have to then trade with the morph card.
That's kind of the one thing I actually like about a draft format, where the quote-unquote archetypes are so varied that it makes it so much more fun. Like I watched, again, when I watch Pro Tour, I watch like every single match. I watch for like 3 days straight pretty much. And like the one thing I noticed is like there was one dude, who just drafted like straight 5 color, just cutting off all the lands. And then there was another person who's like, no, the way to do this is, you just do the 2 color aggro deck, punish everybody who's trying to play 3. And then there's another person like, no. The way you do this is, you pick a charm that's really good, and then you go into that con and or a clan or whatever. And I don't know, I just think it's really cool when you have like everybody saying like, well, no, you can pretty much do this, but you can do this and you can do this, and it's just pretty much you can just do whatever when it's all said and done. The only thing I don't think you really can do is go monocolor.
Right.
Yeah,
I've yet to see anybody successfully go monocolor.
Yeah, you gotta be at least 2.
Format. Yeah.
Yep. I know. I guess a little minor thing for that though is I've noticed, at least around my local game store, it seems to be a more difficult format for a newer player to try to pick up. It's not as so cut and dry, which is again for a person like me that's been playing the game for quite a while. Now I have another edge over them.
Especially with morphs too. Like morphs are so tough for new players. Honestly.
Yeah. Yep. Well, evaluating the power level of morphs can be tricky. Unlike you, my favorite strategy is 5 color morph. Trying to stick more of the Tamir cards, but by the end you're usually splashing for 5 color.
That's the deck I was in, and that deck was actually
good,
the
deck we pretty much were trying to do.
I was just playing too slow because I was like asking him for advice, and he was just like, I don't fucking know, just do whatever.
That was pretty much verbatim what was being said. Like, I don't know, dude, just let me sleep.
Yeah. No, it was a sweet deck. Actually, I will say I actually did draft a monocolor deck. The very first draft I did, and I 3-0'd that draft. It was a sweet mono blue deck with like 2 treasure cruises, and I just like literally went all in on treasure cruise.
Ancestral Recall.
Oh my god, it was so good. But that's the only monocolor deck I built, and I was splashing, but it wasn't really like 2 colors or 3 colors or whatever. It was mono blue. It's like, 16 blue cards or something like that. Like, come on.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, that's not a general thing for most people. Like, you're not going to get that.
Yeah, it's there's too many multicolor cards and too many banners and lands in the packs to really rely on monocolor.
Yeah. How do you feel about banners? I
love them.
Good,
that's when I go to strategy.
Think they're really underrated.
Yeah.
Yep. I usually try for 4 to 5. 4 to 5 is a sweet spot because then because I played during I practice a lot, and then at the Pro Tour Dragon's Maze on day 2 everyone switched over to that strategy to take every key rune and bluestone possible, and then just play all the 6 drops, 5 and 6 drops, and then aggro is gonna burn out before you if you just stabilize with one of your big. And if you look at cons, they're even not looking at the morph cards. There's a bunch of just vanilla type creatures like the 6/5 for 6 mana. Pine Walker is an amazing card, the 5/5 for 5 mana, or you can morph into it. And cards like that where you just drop a banner 3rd turn, and then 4th turn you're ramping into your 5 drop, and it's very hard for any sort of aggressive to keep up with it. Like Bear's Companion's another one that you can get out so quickly.
Bear's Companion is
Banners.
sweet,
I love that card.
there are those like 5-color clan cards that are or not 5-color 5 mana cost clan cards that are non-morphs. There's like a cycle of them. They're very powerful, but they always seem like they never fit into any real deck. But I guess the banner deck is the deck they fit in, right?
It definitely is banners that are again, I like 4 to 5, and that really makes your deck quite small with actual cards. But the banners can be cycled later on for another card, which is
that's an interesting take because
Tormented Voice is key to that deck too. Tormenting Voice, just to ditch the junk you don't need.
Yeah.
And get to what you do.
All right, what card is that?
That is one
You're gonna
of my
have to help
most
me out.
underrated cards by far.
You're gonna have to help me out. What card is that?
It's 2 mana, a 1 and a red. Discard a card, draw 2 cards.
Okay.
Yeah,
But it does everything that the format wants. For 3-colored or 4-colored decks, it helps you find the right cards to fix or the powerful cards. For Pro S, that triggers off like a free Pro S.
Is it an instant or sorcery?
It's a sorcery, I believe.
Yeah.
And then for Delve, you're getting 2 cards in the graveyard.
Yeah.
And it's not costing anything it's not like the scheming card that takes cards off the top of your library.
I think that scheming is a lot better than people initially thought, actually.
It is.
The Delve cards are really good.
That's the thing, I don't think anybody initially thought the Delve cards were as good as they actually are.
I loved Murderous Cut when it was spoiled, but I was like everyone else. Treasure Cruise, I did not see.
Oh my god!
I don't believe anybody. It's like, I saw Treasure Cruise coming. I don't. Think so.
I actually saw Treasure Cruise coming.
Not in the impact that it came in.
I mean,
I don't think people were like, yeah, that's totally Legacy.
I thought it was going to be a lot more powerful than people initially thought. And I told you from day one, as soon as Treasure Cruise was spoiled, I was like, give me that Treasure Cruise.
Who else was on that card, believe it or not?
Who?
Was Kelvin.
Oh, yeah?
Kelvin actually, at one point I was playing and he happened to show up on Skype and I just messaged him for a minute. And he was like, what about Treasure Cruise? I'm like, that card sucks. He was like, it looks pretty good to me. I'm like, you're a moron.
Card's so good. And I mean, okay. I will say that I didn't actually really value it until I initially played with it, but once I sat down with it at the pre-release, I was like, this card is just amazing because I had 2 of them at a pre-release deck, and that was insane. I was like, yes, I get to draw cards. I might lose the game, but I get to draw through my entire deck, and I haven't done that in quite a while in Limited.
Right.
So sweet.
All right.
So, in this format.
Yeah, since we're talking about format changes, let's talk about the actual format changes of the eliminating of the core set, going to the 2 cycle and everything. What do you think about that?
I'm a fan of it. Generally, core sets were not very people didn't look forward to core sets.
I hate them.
What this does is it now, though, they don't have the opportunity to reprint cards as easy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did like about core sets. And then they still have to try to figure out the new player. I think what they were figuring out is the new players didn't even want to get into a core set, though.
I think core set's actually... Core set was a horrible set to get into, if you ask me.
And the card's only good for 1 year, in core set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the really bad part about core sets for new players, because they get all these sweet new cards and they can only play with them for a year. Whereas if they start with the fall set, then they can play them for 2 years, and they actually get into standard that way.
Yeah, I think it's a good move, and it should really spice things up. Rotations will be. Are they quicker now, or are they still gonna? Yeah, so they'll be. Yeah, so it should. I don't think we'll see as much stagnation for as long as if they have a boogeyman card like Delver. Actually, it wasn't even Delver. It was the problem. It was just there was
Sphinx's Revelation.
Mana leak, and
it was everything combined to make that deck a problem. But
the thing is,
Delver was just the poster child of that.
There's always those cards in every. We'll eventually find the card that we all hate in this set.
Yep.
Like at first it was Delver and Mana Leak and Ponder.
I mean,
Mantis
Rider's
now,
human riding
yeah,
insect.
Mantis Rider is probably a good candidate. Because I mean,
Delver.
last it was Sphinx. It was basically blue white. Everything blue white was my bane of existence.
I mean, really,
it's always
blue white. Come on,
it's always blue. It'll be blue in something. But
what is it, like four standards in a row now? It's always been blue white. Like, I mean, I guess it's every standard, but that's since I've been playing, which was started like basically the end of Zendikar block. It's just been straight blue white. Like,
you got in a terrible time if you got in a Zendikar block. That was
it was beginning of Scars Mirrodin. So
I will say when I first started,
but I didn't play standard that much. I just played limited. So
it was a lot more open. It wasn't just always blue. It
was Cawblade, then Delver, then blue white control, then. I mean, this past standard it wasn't blue white, but there was mono blue, which was ridiculous too.
I would say that blue white by the end of the season was starting to get very, very popular.
That's true.
I still think there was only 4 playable decks at the end of this last season.
Yeah.
But again, we've been spoiled for the past 2 rotations now. I really loved Return to Ravnica Innistrad. I thought that there was, even at the end of the when it was about to rotate, I still didn't even think the format was quote unquote solved.
Yeah.
No.
Whereas the 2 formats before then, the Zendikar Scars and Scars into Innistrad, I believe, had been completely solved for months before rotation happened.
Yeah.
So.
The thing with RTR Innistrad though was just that people were being so greedy with their mana bases. And it just got so boring because people were playing like 4-color decks and like not having mana problems at all.
Let's
come on.
Let's throw in a Thragtusk in every possible deck.
Yeah.
Let's just splash green for Thragtusk.
Thragtusk works in an aggro deck because it's a 5/3 and the Supreme Verdict, and you still have a 3/3.
That does get really, really boring to watch. Like, just 4-color good stuff is not. Like, it's the same thing with Jund in other formats. Like, it's really just 3-color good stuff, and then Jund starts splashing like white for like Lingering Souls, and it's just, why are you even calling it Jund? It's just call it value cards, like everything but blue. Yeah,
and that's what I hope that this format doesn't. I mean, Ari Lox's Abzan mid-range deck just seemed like, let's just play every best card in the format. Sweet.
Yeah. I mean, that deck will always kind of exist if the mana fixing supports it, but I think that it not being the best deck, I think it was in the Innistrad RTR block, which is just like playing good broken stuff. Like that was the best deck in that format. In this format, I don't necessarily think that it is, because the mana fixing is not that good to support broken 5-color decks or whatever.
Well, yeah, and then like we were talking before the show, I think that every one of these decks have major, major holes in them to be exploited.
Definitely.
Like the UB Control. UB Control does not have a reliable kill spell until turn 3. That's not very good for Control.
Yeah. I mean, well, that is the way that I guess Wizards has been designing their sets in mind. Like, no counter spells less than 3 mana, no removal spells less than 3 mana. Well, I guess there is that 2 mana counter spell. It's not really, it's very conditional.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no really like good removal spells at less than 3 mana anymore. I guess Murderous Cut kind of, but like you have to do a lot of work for that. So
yeah, but I mean, you're still not getting it. You have to do the work,
right.
Like you said. You're probably not, and especially in a control deck, you're probably not going to be able to just have that on turn 2.
No, definitely not on turn 2.
Yeah, I think that's good for the game, because this is for the strategic player, the player that knows when to use spells. The old school control decks, when they had just plain counter spell or mana leak, that was a 1-card solve all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, and now they have to be kind of choosy with when they cast their particular counter spells. That, like, do I negate this or wait? Can this other spell handle that spell later on? It's more.
Which is actually another plus to playing rogue decks right there.
Yeah.
Is when you're playing that control matchup and you're, throwing down spells they've never seen before. They're like, wait, what? Because, I mean, if I'm a control player and I'm playing let's use last standard for example, because like we all stated, I don't think this standard's been solved, but like in the last control, you see the Elspeth and you go, well, okay, I'm playing blue-white control and they have Elspeth on the stack. Well, that's their win con right there.
Yeah.
Pretty much I counter that, and then I counter one more, and then if I counter their stupid, what's that? The artifact that shuffles everything back in the library, like I've won the game. Because they literally have nothing left.
I mean, that is something to consider. I think that like tap out control is like really stale though, which is what people are going towards now.
Well, I think without Sphinx's Revelation, control isn't nearly as powerful as it was. Because
Yeah,
I mean, let's face it,
Dig Through
control
Time
was
is no Sphinx.
Yeah.
no control was always almost dead.
I mean,
Always, you would get it down to like 2 hit points.
I will say though,
life,
Dig
whatever
Through
it's
Time is much more exciting than Sphinx's Revelation to
Yep.
like to both play and to watch, because then you're like, well, I don't know if Sphinx's Revelation is really easy to cast. So you just tap all your mana. I draw this many cards. I gain this many life. You're dead, right? But Dig Through Time is like, well, I have to pick 2 of these cards, and they have to be the right answers this time.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think Dig Through Time is actually like much better for the format in general, and I can't wait to be casting it once I actually get the cards. But yeah, I don't know. I think that there does need to be some answers in the format that for a control deck to exist, and I don't know necessarily that any answers exist, even like spotty answers, like the conditional answers that
I don't
we've
think
seen.
the classic control, like that we think of it, is available right now. It might be eventually, but I don't like if blue black control is the best that Team Channel Fireball and frickin' Andrew Cuneo, who is like one of the kings of control, can come up with, I'm not impressed.
Yeah.
And it's not him that I'm talking about, it's the actual deck itself. Like, I would actually rather play like a Mardu control. Or something that
Well, Solte control. I'm really Solte Flash.
Yeah, something that's like controlling the board but also doing something also.
Yep.
Yeah, you really need to play like a flash deck if you want to play like the old style of control where you just say go, land go, and then
land go, let me play all my spells on the end of turn.
Yeah, that's the old style of control. I don't know. I'm not feeling the tap out control decks that these guys are playing Pro Tour. It's just not my thing. Definitely not my thing actually. But I do like playing that old style control deck a lot too. I did play blue black control in that standard format that you really hated, Kevin. Yeah. With I'm just gonna drown you out very slowly.
Oh, I hated that deck.
Yeah, I played that deck, I will say.
That deck got on my nerves so bad. It's like, oh, I came to play Magic. Oh, guess what? I guess I'm not doing that today.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just putting cards in my graveyard and saying go.
No one's doing anything except you're milling 3.
It was the most boring I've ever been. I would go to I stopped going to FNMs just because I'd be like, okay, and I got my sweet little white deck, and that was the one good thing about my white weenie deck is I could just go underneath a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Until it was Day of Judgment time or whatever, and then it was just like, well, I guess I don't get to play anymore.
Oh, that's an interesting point too. There is not really a good sweeper in this format.
No,
End Hostilities is not really.
And it can be countered. That's what I hated about Return to Ravnica.
Yeah, definitely.
In particular, Supreme Verdict. The Supreme Verdict kept so many decks from ever seeing the light of day.
Yeah.
I'm having a lot of success now with a blue-white heroic deck, just for the fact that I can negate the End Hostilities. So I can play that kind of tempo style, drop a 1-drop, drop a 2-drop, and then just play, I'm going to hold up the negate for your answer.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and that wasn't possible with Supreme Verdict and Abrupt Decay. You could not do anything about those.
Nope.
So I think that's actually probably good for aggro decks. Definitely not good for control decks, but that's good. We won't see any blue-white control decks this season.
Well, it adds another angle. So again, you can play the metagame. You can play the whole, what is this what do I think is going to be the deck of the tournament here, and how do I beat it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, there won't be a clear-cut best deck, which is well, I hope that's the way this standard will go. Because I'm not impressed with a lot of the decks that showed up at the Pro Tour as far as they're not complete decks. They all have major holes. I think that the Jeskai mid-range deck was the most complete because it could do so many different things. It could play the control route, it could play the tempo route, and it could play the straight-out aggro route. So
the one I really liked, actually, was I watched 2 weeks before on Star City, Jadine Klamparin's Tempo Jeskai deck was actually my favorite Jeskai deck that I've seen so far. Where it was just, it wasn't really mid-range, and it didn't play Ascendancy. It just kind of did its thing with, what the hell is that card? The 3/3 haste. Mantis Rider, that's it.
Yep. A lot of them have already been switching over to main-boarded End Hostilities and main-boarded Anger of Gods.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of routes you can take that deck with using the same cards. Just
Anger
where you
basically
put in your
kills
sideboard slots.
all the things that you want it to kill right now, and I think that's the best sweeper option, but it's also not, exactly that great if you end up playing against a big
Butcher of the Horde.
Something going over the top.
Yeah, Brumaz, Courser Crufix.
Yep.
Yeah.
But,
the cards that everyone's playing.
I don't think everyone's playing Brumaz, honestly, but
it saw a lot of play at the Pro Tour.
Courser's almost been hated out of the format just by the sheer number of Jeskai tempo decks, which just kind of like, I'm going to play this Mantis Rider, and you can't block it, and you have no answers.
Yep.
Take 3 a turn.
Suspension field is pretty big.
Unless they hit their Doomwake Giants.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that if the Courser decks go away, we could see like some real sweet aggro decks come up, like your blue-white heroic deck, and then then you could get some like crazy like all-in like mono black aggro, like we were people were talking about at the start of the standard season, that spoiler season,
Yep.
So many black 1-drops, and nothing happened because
you still have Mogus Marauder.
You
just go over the top of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of different routes you can go with that sort of deck.
I mean,
I am
sad because my deck got killed with the rotation, but whatever. I'll make another.
The Launch the Fleets deck was almost top 8. And that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that's an all-in strategy.
Let's talk about, speaking of all-in strategies. Actually, I didn't put this on our sheet, but I did want to talk about this real quick because it's getting a lot of press. Is the Jeskai Ascendancy combo for Modern?
Yeah.
Have you seen this, Kevin?
Yeah, it's just another another deck that's easy to hate out in Modern, but Modern's becoming, I don't know, how do I put this sensitively? I don't know, without offending people, but
don't.
It's just,
I like to offend people. Go for it.
It's becoming painful for me to like, which stupid combo deck do I want to sideboard against today? Because it's
really?
Like with my Soul, I still run Soul Sisters pretty religiously, and the reason why I like Soul Sisters is it's white, and white has options against every combo deck. I have cards like Rest in Peace, Stony Silence, Rule of Law. I mean, the list goes on and on and on that you can actually use to hate out all of the combo decks. So
you
like
got Hushwing Griff now too.
Yeah, and it's a pretty decent card against Pod. But now adding on another combo deck that can potentially win on turn 2 or turn 3 with completely different cards than you want to use against the traditional like Storm, because it's the way they have it built. I'll have to look at the actual Modern list.
Well, Rule of Law.
They go get Flesh Blood.
Rule of Law still works.
You.
That still works against it.
So does
they can still bounce it.
Yeah.
They don't really play. They don't really play bounce. Though.
Yeah, they don't have room for
their whole deck is literally just cycling cards and a couple mana dorks and the Ascendancy.
The Ascendancy combo deck is way more all in than like
it's super
a lot of decks. Like,
but the
thing
thing
like
is,
Storm can have some room in the sideboard for like removal spells and answers to hate, but I don't think the Ascendancy deck really has that much hate.
Yeah. Well, Storm, what you usually do is you switch over to Empty the Warrens if they try to hate out the Grape Shot strategy, and then you just go for like a quick couple copies of Empty the Warrens, and hopefully they've made their deck so watered down that 8 Goblin tokens can finish the game. But
yeah, I'm not too familiar with the modern metagame. You're probably more familiar with it than me. But this Jeskai Ascendancy
Modern
deck,
is one of my favorite formats.
this Jeskai Ascendancy deck, it really just seems like a much more all-in version of some of these other combo decks.
well, and it can do it might get the ban because it can do a turn 2 kill
Right.
quite
I mean,
consistently.
it
I
can.
think it
It's
will.
very much more consistent than Storm, but if it gets hated, like it's probably going to lose. It's just the binary thing that they don't want. Like they don't want.
Yeah,
that
and
sort of
they
thing.
haven't banned Goryo's Vengeance, I guess. So I don't know if they're
Yeah, but
the policy was they didn't want any turn 2 kills, but Goryo's Vengeance still exists.
They don't want.
Yeah,
they don't want
Impact still
consistent
exists.
They don't
two-turn
want-
kills.
they don't want good turn 2
Yeah.
kills. Yeah, Goryo's Vengeance. Yeah, you can get the turn 2 kill if you have the God Hand and or dancing in Magical Christmas Land, basically. It's not a good deck, really.
No, it's not. It's
But
same thing with Amit Vigor.
the Ascendancy combo is like I was telling Nate the other day. I was watching on Twitch, and I watched who did I watch play it? Somebody on Channel Fireball, and I know
Sam
Caleb
Party,
Durwood
was it?
on Channel Sam Party.
Yeah.
That's it. It was Sam Party, Caleb Durwood, and then one other person I can't remember. And all in all, I watched about 22 matches. And in the 22 matches, I didn't see a single game loss.
Well, I mean, part of that was probably like people just didn't have hate in their sideboards for it yet.
I didn't know what was going
But-
on.
Also,
I don't
the
know
other part
how.
of it, well, I mean, some
Well,
people
'cause
don't
again,
follow the
it's-
metagame that closely.
Yeah, Storm hasn't been hated out for quite a while
Yeah.
because people haven't been playing Storm, and it's the same kind of stuff that you'd put in the hate-wise. I mean, you can try to kill the enchantment, or like I've been talking with people, like Gut Shot seems really good. They go first turn Noble Hierarch, you Gut Shot it. Now their hand's not that great. They could have kept a really loose hand. Thoughtseize still seems to work pretty decent. First turn Thoughtseize breaking up the combo.
Yeah, Thoughtseize not as good though because it fuels their treasure cruises and things for their combo, so that and it's very resilient to that sort of hate because
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because they can just redraw and everything after
Yeah.
they cycle everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's
And I could see them starting to play Pact and Negation too. Once the quote unquote
Yeah,
hate
if they know they're
starts.
going
I mean, yeah, they can go packed. I think.
Because once they go off, who cares?
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily like right to talk about like what hate cards are beat them. It's like if they have room in their deck to hate out the hate, I guess.
Uh-huh.
The deck itself will probably just be banned in some way. Like they'll probably ban Glittering Wish.
Oh yeah,
problem with the
I think they're gonna ban Glittering Wish. I don't think they ban Ascendancy.
no. I think they
I don't
like
think
the card that they if they would ban it, it would go away. Would be Gataxian Probe, and I think Gataxian Probe is bad for Modern anyway.
You think
It's
Probe's
just
that?
people just use Gataxian Probe to play a 56 card deck anyway,
Yeah.
and that's how it gets the turn 2 kill. Can Jeskai combo? Can it actually get a turn 2 without Gataxian Probe?
I don't know about that actually. I think it can with
Because I think what they do is they play first turn Noble Hierarch, second turn they're tapping the 2 lands and Noble Hierarch for the Ascendancy.
Yeah, they have a thing
and
that can
they're
give haste,
untapping
though.
it through Gataxian Probe.
they have a thing that can give haste. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, but they can't
It's-
pay for it.
It's no, they can because it's a Phyrexian red.
No, it's not.
You sure?
No, it's not.
I
No.
thought
No,
it
it's
was.
just single red. Although,
Yeah, so the turn 2 needs to have a Gataxian Probe.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Although I don't know if they would necessarily want to hate out or hate out.
I don't think.
I don't think they're gonna get rid of Gataxian Probe because that'll like just destroy
I do,
Storm too.
because no, Storm doesn't need it to exist.
Well.
It's just annoying. It's like it's one of those obnoxious cards that so many decks are just chucking in. It's like, oh, cool, I can play a 56 card deck and get information. And it has no drawback whatsoever.
Well,
I mean, 2 life
yeah.
for information is huge. Or a free spell. There's so many decks that just abuse it. I mean, UR Delver abuses it for a free chance to hit Delver off the top and not cost them anything, or a Pyromancer elemental token
I mean,
for free.
the 2 life is a relevant cost to some of these decks though. Like Delver 2 life is definitely a relevant cost because like Delver can die. Like
Not to mention you're playing modern,
Yeah.
so you're playing fetches.
yeah, fetches and shocks. Like
Yeah, Yeah, there actually is a cost to it. I think.
Yeah.
I don't see Gitaxian Pro being the one card they choose.
I think
if anything, I still think it's going to be Ascendancy. But if there was a number 2 card, I would probably say Glittering Wish also.
I mean, I think that would be sweet justice to all the people who bought like a million Glittering Wishes for speculation.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, really, like, I don't know. I don't think they would print Ascendancy and then instantly ban it like the next set. Like, I really don't think that Wizards is like gonna do that to the their game, especially because like I don't even think the deck is that broken. Like, I think it's consistent. I think that they need to hit the consistency a little bit, but I don't think they need to get rid of the deck altogether.
Yep.
All right. So, talking about modern and standard and whatever, basically we're talking about competitive decks. So the question is, because I know you're pretty much a budget player, or at least that's what you do on Gathering Magic anyway. How hard is it to like be an actual competitive? I mean, and I'm not talking like F&M or a little tournament or something. I'm actually talking about like a Grand Prix type. How hard is it to be budget oriented and actually stay competitive?
I'm gonna say it is very hard to do so. If you're thinking about Grand Prix is a big deal thing. That'd be like asking the professional hockey team not to use the best skates or the best stick out on the ice if they're gonna. If you are dedicated to go to Grand Prix, I would highly advise that you have a complete deck for it, or at least then stick to just the sealed Grand Prix that are options. But I mean, you can make competitive decks for budget, but you're always going to miss something. I mean, as we were talking about Legacy earlier on, you can use shock lands over dual lands, but dual lands are just that 2 life, like we were talking about. Kataxi Probe is relevant, especially in Legacy when they have a quick burn deck that can consistently kill almost every time by turn 4,
which is actually one of the cheaper decks too.
Yeah. So I mean, again, you can build inexpensive decks that do work. That there you go, Legacy Burn, for example, that is never going to cost
anything modern, basically. If you're not paying for like the crazy amount, like the crazy expensive lands, you've already won the battle.
I think the lands are the real like hill to cross. Like, if you can get lands for the format, like even if they're slightly suboptimal, like you'll probably still be able to build a good quote unquote budget deck.
That's why I chose Soul Sisters as well.
I mean,
as it was at the time as budget.
Oh yeah, I think it is still pretty budget.
It's still pretty decent.
Not nearly. I picked up for $80 when I first started playing it. Now it's probably triple that.
I don't know if it's quite triple that. I was checking.
Well, Arctic Champions. The version I use is like Arctic Champions are obscenely expensive now.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the modern prices, but I'm talking about like specifically like especially this standard. Like you can run a deck with like temples, and temples are pretty cheap as far as dual lands are concerned. Like
some of those just had a recent skyrocket as well.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the temple prices from after the Pro Tour. I'm sure the blue-white, the blue-red ones are going up. But like there's temples, there's the pain lands in the standard, which are also really good. So you don't necessarily have to go with the fetches right away. And there's also tri-lands, which are like basically insane fixing for your wonky 3-color decks, which I'm sure everyone's going to want to build at some point in this format. Right?
Yeah, I believe that the Jeskai Tricolored Land and then Abzan Tricolored Land actually were played as much in the Pro Tour as like Pluto Delta.
Yeah, and those are uncommons, so like...
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, just right there, like that cuts out so much of the cost of a format.
Yeah,
because you don't necessarily need like the crazy planeswalkers, especially in this format, to make a competitive deck.
You don't, but again, if you're going to be going to something big like a Grand Prix, and there's been so many times in my history with Magic where my suboptimal card has ended up costing me the game. So, if, for example, like an Incinerate over a Lightning Bolt, the 1 mana difference, I mean, this is maybe a bad example for budget, but the 1 mana difference between the 3 damage on a Lightning Bolt and an Incinerate it's huge. It's Or for example, I was playing instead of Shocklands, or for a lot of these playing on a budget series I do for Gathering Magic, I'd be just doing like a Guildgate instead. And that turn, I needed that to come untapped.
Yeah.
I only did it twice, and I can tell you right now, Nate, it's the most annoying thing in the world to try to stay on the budget with land.
I mean, yeah, that is true, but I think that's just a bullet that you have to bite if you want to play competitively. Honestly, like F&Ms, you can get away with suboptimal lands, but if you want to play competitively, you don't necessarily need to have all of the best cards in terms of planeswalkers and things. You can make do with other cards in that way. There's plenty of good uncommons and commons that are just like insane, or even rares that are like underplayed, that are just really good in a competitive quote unquote deck. But you need the land base if you want to run anything other than monocolored, like for sure.
Yeah, and then again though, it probably is more or less important with the mana base before the actual power of the cards. Like if you can start, let's just look at the Jeskai deck. If you can fill out your Mantis Riders and Goblin Rabble Masters, which are the core of the deck, before you start working on your fixing, it probably is more important for the deck than the fixing. But ultimately, the fixing is going to come into play.
Yeah, I don't know about that actually, because especially with your Jeskai, like you don't want to be running suboptimal lands, because you need 3 different colored lands on turn 3 if you want to play that.
But if you don't, the whole reason you need them is for your Mantis Rider anyway, so you're going to need the Mantis Rider.
Yeah, I think it's like one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't things.
Yeah, so I have actually the deck list right in front of me right now. So I'm going to look at so there's 4 each of the Temples of Triumph and Epiphany, which are the red, blue, and red, white.
And those could easily be replaced for the game when live.
Right.
I'm sure.
Yeah, like those, those are easily replaceable. But I think, the Temple of Triumph is not even it's less than $5, which that's a lot for some people. But honestly, that's not even that much of a cost for land.
Like when we're talking land expense, if it's not up in the 15-20 area, then I don't really consider it that expensive.
Right. And there's 4 Fledged Strands, which that's the biggest hill to cross.
Those will go down.
But they will go down with time, because I think right now they're on kind of a bubble. Especially all the fetches are on a bubble.
What are they at right now? Out of curiosity.
16-ish, 17-ish?
I can't even tell. I've been looking at the MTGO prices, and they've been around 10, but it looks like in paper they're like around 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not terrible.
Yeah, that's not even that bad. Like, especially if you want to play a deck like this, because if you actually look at Sean McLaren's deck, he has he has Goblin Rabble Masters and he has Sarkhan, but honestly, you could replace some of these other cards with other cards that are very similar. Like Dig Through Time is a good example of something that you could replace with Treasure Cruise. Now it's not going to be as good as Dig Through Time is, but it kind of fills the same role in that.
Yeah,
it's a giant draw.
I think I kind of agree with Kevin though when you're talking about for example, like you just said, Dig Through Time versus Treasure Cruise. You're always making the deck worse, and even if it's just a tiny little step, you take 5 tiny little steps, it ends up being a big one.
I definitely see where you're coming from, but that's not really a good example either, because Dig Through Time kind of fills a different role than Treasure Cruise.
Yeah, they're both powerful in their own their own way.
You still look at something like Goblin Rabble Master in this deck. Rabble Master is a great card, but you could replace it with something else and still do decently at an event. Honestly, Rabble Master is insane, but other cards are also really good. And Rabble Master is easy to answer for some decks.
When you're looking at budget decks, though, I think that's the worst way to go about things, is trying to take an already established deck and seeing where you can cut it down.
Absolutely.
Or you should just start over with a card that is undervalued and still very powerful.
That's what I did last standard for my budget deck. I don't know if either of you guys actually saw my budget series, because it was on my channel and not on the main channel, of course.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
It was okay.
It was a good deck. I could have made it much better.
Dude, I played against that deck a billion times.
I could have made it much better, but the entire deck actually cost me 10 tickets on Magic Online. And
Well,
it was
that's
competitive.
my most recent one.
It was competitive. And the other deck I built was actually a modern deck that I built. I'm still working on it. This is still a work in progress. But I did 3-1 a daily event with it, which is blue black Tezzeret Tron.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's such a sweet deck too. But that is a budget deck. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Tron lands are like so cheap. Tezzeret, I think he's like what? I don't even think he's that much on Magic Online, like, because nobody plays him. The blue black Tezzeret from.
I think he's gone up recently because of vintage.
The blue black one, really?
Yeah.
I thought they played Tezzeret Seeker.
There's decks with Seeker and there's decks with Agent of Bolus. Agent of Bolus is like in a very aggressive artifact deck that just basically you drop Tezzeret, control it for 1 turn, and then win the following.
Secretly speculate like I did at the end of the last standard, where I bought like 1 million Karanoses by like wanting to play Karanos, and then he went up to like $20. I'm like, get rid of all these. I don't actually want to look that up. Tezzeret Agent. Oh wow, he went way up. Holy crap!
Yeah,
I picked him up for like 2 tickets, and now he's like 20 tickets. All right, so that's not a good example because I apparently speculated again secretly. But that was entirely a budget deck where it's just...
Well, actually, that's actually a good topic, actually, that you brought that up. That's one way to beat the whole budget thing. Like, for example, I built the mono black deck before Pro Tour. So I had Pack Rats, and I had Desecration Demons, and all that stuff. And it was cheap. It was very cheap for me to put together, actually, just because nobody played it yet.
Yeah.
So speculating is actually a really good way you can get a competitive edge. Speaking of speculation, that'll bring us to our next topic. I've seen that the new quote-unquote like special thing that they're putting out is a dual deck anthology, which is the first 5 dual decks that they put out in one set for $100. So, Kevin, you're the speculation master of the 3 of us. What do you think? Worth it? Not worth it?
I did a whole video on this, and I've come to a little more information from that time than when I made the video. I've always hated these products, as I'm not a collector, and if you add up the total value of cards, I'm not including any sort of foils, and I don't think people can actually look at foils. Like, I've been told that this is the only demonic tutor in a black border besides unlimited demonic tutors or something. You know, there's like all these justifications and rationalizations for how some of these cards can keep their price. But it all depends on how big of a printing this is going to be.
Yeah.
Because if it is going to be... what we've had the last 2 years, though, is we've seen a company that has been relentlessly printing everything. Now, what made the old dual decks expensive, like the Liliana versus Garrick and Chandra versus Jace, is they were underprinted. Yeah. It was kind of... Wizards was still trying to get a feel for the whole sealed product, and they didn't want to print too many of them that wouldn't sell, so they underprinted them, and then they became increasingly rare. And that is why the deck costs a lot right now, and that is why some of the cards in the deck cost more than they would. If this is going to be a bigger printing like the Commander 2013 sets or the Modern Event deck or even the more recent Clash Packs and Event decks, then I do not think that this is going to be worth its $100 price tag. Secondly, how many people are actually going to buy this? Like, I don't want it. No, I don't know about...
I think the only people who are going to buy are speculators, probably.
Yeah. Or collectors. Yeah. Like, I do know some hardcore collectors that they are just so excited about this. But, again, both speculators and collectors, they better be very, very weary about this, about at least buying at the MSRP, when if you look at some of the last sealed products, especially Modern Event deck that Wizards was all really trying to get people excited about, you can find those for $52 on eBay right now. And when I did a video on it saying that, and at the time there's $160 worth of cards in it, and I said, do not buy this. It's not going to be worth it within a month. Well, I was wrong. It wasn't worth it within a week because the prices dropped that bad.
Yep.
And I'm thinking the same thing is going to happen with this unless I have heard rumors that shops are only getting about 4 of these per shop. And if that is the case, then then collectors will eat this up.
I thought this was kind of like when they do the From the Vaults thing, like where it's a very limited.
But From the Vaults have been increasing year to year.
Yeah.
Like these From the Vaults realms you can still get at, or not realms, From the Vaults Annihilation you can still get an MSRP on Amazon and eBay.
Well, I didn't like that. That's the first one where I didn't actually want it anyway, because
it had $300 of cards in it.
Yeah.
Again, that's.
But it's, I don't know.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
Something about
I mean, From the Vault 20.
have,
come on, can you find one of those on eBay still?
You can't, because Jace has a very special place in. I think they could print that card into Oblivion and it'd still be worth a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of the sweetest cards ever printed, right? Like everybody wants a Jace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you looked at the last one, Annihilator, it did have 2 extremely rare cards that were worth $150 a piece. And then, of course, though, supply meets demand. When you have a card that it has low demand and low supply, that's the worst when it gets a reprint, because its price can only go down, because now it's going to have low demand and high supply.
Well, I mean, if you look at some of the cards in the reserve list, they're really only like, priced that highly because there's so few of them and available to buy or trade for or whatever. And since they can't reprint them, obviously the price is going to go way up. Like, you look at, like, Time Twister, like, that card is not even that powerful. I mean, it is a very powerful effect, right? But that card, like, is not even, like, that close to the others in Power 9. But its price tag is so high just because there's so few of them.
It's not even banned in Commander.
Yeah. Like...
Yeah.
It's the only Power 9 not banned in Commander.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so rare that the price tag had to go way up because there's so few of them that, like, I mean, like, people don't even see Time Twisters, like, right?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
But speculation in general is a very iffy thing to do right now. We've seen a lot of uncertainty, and that's the worst for anyone that wants to be a speculator. We've seen Wizards that is very... I guess it's very easy for them to do reprints lately. Like, you've seen this last anthologies. This is an actual reprint of a product that was released.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's to say that if people want Modern Masters to be reprinted, what's to say we're just gonna do it again. We're just gonna reprint another printing of Modern Masters.
I mean,
if they have people that want to buy it, that's gonna...
Like, I think they've said that they would. They were actually willing to do that, like reprint Modern Masters.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah.
I'm really thinking that Vegas this next year is going to be Modern Masters 2 plus Modern Masters 1, so probably 3 and 3.
I mean, that would be a
or
sweet
something
format.
like that. I don't know if they can make enough cards.
If they made a Modern Masters like full set, like, that would be so sweet.
Well, because what haven't they printed in Modern Masters that they really need to print? I mean, of course, the Zednikar, Innistrad, Scars and Mirrodin cards could be feasibly reprinted now in Modern Masters 2. Mm-hmm. And then, but a lot of the cards that desperately need reprints are already been reprinted once in Modern Masters. So
the fetches are definitely, like, they need to be reprinted.
Yeah, they'll be in there. I was thinking Liliana, but now they've just announced that Liliana is going to be that PTQ.
Yeah, you just show up and you get her.
Yeah, was that for PTQ or PTQQ?
I thought it was a state, actually. So
it's the regional, yeah.
Yeah. And it's not even like you just show up and you get her.
Yeah, it's the promo. It's like,
That's insane.
Wait, they're doing those PTQQs in paper too? I thought it was only on Magic Online.
Yeah, PTQQ is any local game store that is, I believe, level... they have like a gold, silver, bronze. I can't remember exactly how, but it's like the equivalent of like a level 3 store, which isn't very hard to get. That means they've had like a 32-man tournament is all you have to do to qualify for this. I know that our game store is, and then they require that you actually do have a level either 1 or 2 judge, which isn't very hard to get, especially in larger states. Actually oversee the PTQQ.
So do you actually have to win one of those in order to get into a PTQ?
I think is it the top 4 from the which?
Yeah.
No, is it top 4 from the PTQ or the top 4 from the? Yes, you have to win a PTQQ.
You have to win
but
a
if every store can hold one, I mean, just in my area, if I go up to Salt Lake, that means there's at least a dozen stores that could host that.
Well, my problem with it, and I'm talking about this from like an extremely casual competitive player, but like I just don't have the time to go out that many days and play that many, different tournaments. Like I go out to the PTQ because it's a day-long thing. It's just like once every 6 months or so, whenever the sealed PTQ comes up, right? Like I do that, and I just have a good time. But for having that many, like if say I win the PTQ, now I have to be available on the PTQ day too. Like
yes,
yeah, that's
they give you like I believe a travel reward to go because this. It's going to be regional. It's not going to be states. So my entire region, I'm lucky it's going to be held in Salt Lake this year. But if it's the next year, they decide, or next season, whatever it is, they decide to hold it in Denver. Denver's a 9-hour drive.
That is the one thing I'm not happy about with this change. But I was listening to this. I was like thinking that was actually the case. But like now that I'm actually like thinking about it, fully, like that's I'm probably never going to play it in PTQQ because I'm never going to be able to go to one of the PTQs now.
But you could get a Liliana.
Or I could just get a Liliana. I could use my entry fee to get a Liliana because they're going to be like $2 after this season.
They'll go. Oh, batter. I don't know if they'll have like even the effect of a Grand. Well, they probably will have like Grand Prix effect.
I'm exaggerating, obviously, but it's definitely going to go way down if it's going to be that common.
I guess my original point with that is like they'll use reprints at any opportune time to try to promote stuff. So now we have a Liliana on the Veil that's hovering around $70 that they're going to use as a selling point to come join a PTQ.
Yeah.
So as far as being a speculator, it's very hard to do so when Wizards is any card that's over like $20 is not safe at any given time.
No, well, unless it's on the reserve list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're always safe in, like, if you want to speculate on dual lands, like, go right ahead, because they're going to keep their value.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like I said, and I am sticking to this competitive Magic thing because I'm really upset about this now because, like, I'm just never going to be able to break into competitive Magic ever again now. Because, like, for anyone who has, like, no free time like me, like that's just impossible. Like that's now you have to travel and like everything else. Like no, I just can't accept that because like I don't know. It's really upsetting to me now. I'm very upset.
All right, so I've completed my daily goal of upsetting Nate. So we'll go on to our last topic. This is something you brought up before we actually started recording. Was markability of streaming Magic.
Oh yeah.
And the thing we've noticed is that Magic is always not popular on Twitch. It averages during Pro Tour and with an SCG going alongside of it, across all Magic streamers, it was averaging about 9,000.
Yeah, which is abysmal.
About 10,000. It was like 97 or something like
I think
but that is just
Twitch numbers for other games like League of Legends, like they had like 150,000 like daily. Like that's basic. And this is during like one of the biggest events of Magic in general for like the whole year. And guess what? Like I think that's really sad. But I also think that Magic in general now is more marketable than ever before on Twitch. And it's one of those games that's very interactive. You can be very interactive with your viewer base. Like we've seen you guys don't play Hearthstone, but Hearthstone is like Magic in the sense that, it's a card game, but it's also very interactive with your viewer base. And people have been very successful with that in Hearthstone, and it's surprising to me after watching all this Hearthstone actually recently that it's not translated into Magic, and MTGO is better now than it was before in terms of streamability, but it's not getting any more viewers than it was before. I think the most popular Magic streamers on a day-to-day basis get like 1,000 viewers tops. Like And again, that's abysmal.
I tuned into Conley Woods the one day, who arguably is probably one of the more popular personalities of Magic the Gathering, period. And I think he had like 345.
Yeah. I mean, you see like random generic streamers of like Hearthstone on Twitch get like 2,000 viewers easy. Yeah, I mean the big names on Hearthstone get like 10K in like the middle of the day when no one's actually like available.
While we were talking, I signed on to my Xbox on my Twitch. The number one thing being streamed right now is League of Legends with 78,965 viewers.
Yep.
Hearthstone is number 2 with 20,372, with Dota 2 around 18K. You have to go past The Evil Within, World of Warcraft, Counter-Strike, Street Fighter 4, Destiny, Legend of Grimlock 2, I don't even know what that is, StarCraft, Smash Brothers, DayZ, RuneScape, Smite, Diablo, Alien Isolation, Arma 3, and then you get to Magic the Gathering, finally, at 1,761.
Now, it is something to note that Hearthstone is a free-to-play game, and so is League of Legends, so is Dota 2, and Magic is most certainly not.
So is Magic Online if you use Cockatrice.
Magic is most certainly not a free-to-play game. That being said, however, there are millions of Magic players worldwide. Yeah. And you would think that some of them would use Twitch, and they do, because, I mean, I'm a big fan of Day 9. Literally, like, all of his viewers also play Magic. And he always refers to Magic in his actual streams. Even though he's, like, obviously not a Magic streamer. And even though he did really well at the Community Cup. But he always refers to Magic, and all of his viewers always, because I see it all the time. I look at his chat because I watch Day 9, and I see all of his chat like gets the Magic references, all that. Why aren't these people watching Magic at all? Like,
it's got to be a cultural thing, is what not really a gamer cultural thing. What I've noticed being involved with the local game store is that even our local players are way more hardcore into their actual, like you said, League of Legends or World of Warcraft or StarCraft, and then Magic's like their side hobby. And I think that is a lot of the player base of Magic the Gathering haven't really made this transition of this being their number one game they play or their number one hobby. I mean, for me, Magic is it definitely for me is the biggest game that I play.
Come on. So. Like, honestly, you're going to say that Hearthstone is people's number one hobby? Like,
yeah, well, there you go.
Actually,
that's something Wizards needs to tackle.
I don't think so. Hearthstone is so similar to Magic in terms of how it's actually played and, like, actual, like, acquiring the cards and all that. I mean, it's a collectible card game like Magic. Like, it should be. I think it should be similar in terms of viewership, considering that Magic's been around for so much longer and it has a huge following already. Like, that just makes sense to me. So I honestly think it's something other than the actual, like, way that I don't know. Not necessarily
the company hasn't made a platform for it.
Yeah, I mean that's
it's basically all underground movements that have happened with Magic the Gathering. I mean, I haven't gone back this far with at least the Pro Tour circuit. I mean, I've got into competitive play more recently, but I hear that Pro Tours used to be such a joke until Star City Games came along and started competing with them. Yeah. And then that made Wizards get their act together and actually make a...
I feel like Wizards seeing Hearthstone's numbers and seeing the amount of attention Hearthstone is getting, Wizards should actually do something about that in terms of
this will just open up a can of worms with me if we go down this road.
I'm serious. Like, I enjoy Hearthstone, but it's very painful to me because Magic is just it should be getting more viewers rather than Hearthstone. I mean, I understand that Hearthstone is a more casual game, like it's more easily accessible, but there's no reason that Magic shouldn't be getting the numbers it is. Or should be getting numbers it is, rather.
Completely agree with you. That's it. Sometimes I always look at my own channel, and I've accomplished a lot. I'm glad that I've been able to accomplish the 1.5 million views and the 10,000 subscribers. But I see some of these other people, again, like Clash of Clans. That game is driving me insane.
Oh my God,
I see some 14-year-old kid make the most terrible videos imaginable, and it just has hundreds of thousands of views per video for a clash of a little
An
iPhone game where you...
I don't get this. Like, I'm with Kevin on this one, and that's very rarely, but this friggin' annoys the hell out of me.
I agree fully, but the thing is, though, like, I just don't understand why some of these Magic streams don't get as much attention as they should be getting.
Yeah.
Like,
well, Wizards needs to incentivize the... Well, and they are. They've been trying to get their act together, I guess. I mean, what kind of time frame do we give them, though? I've personally given Magic Online so many chances, and they just keep failing.
Their attempt at, getting the, I guess, their act together, quote unquote, was to send that company a cease and desist letter and do nothing about Hearthstone. Like, that's not even...
Yeah.
I forget what the game was called, but they put that company out of business, basically. And now, with Hearthstone, I think it's a good thing for Magic, actually, to have, something similar to compete with. But
yeah.
I don't think that Wizards is responding well at all.
It reminds me of... It kind of reminds me of WCW, and I'm a wrestling fan, feel free to hate. But it reminds me of, like, old school, like, during the Monday Night Wars, WCW versus WWF.
Yeah.
Like, they need to, for lack of a better term, get their attitude error. Like, they need to do something to show that this is why you should stay with this as opposed to go with the new thing.
Basically what I'm trying to say is that I think that it's good for Magic to have competition, but Wizards is not responding in a way that actually makes sense.
No, but to me, it's like they're ignoring it, which is like the worst thing you could do.
I don't know.
I've said this before. Just they better give all their game designers the biggest raise ever, because it's the actual game that is keeping on all the players here, because they failed miserably at all the other aspects of marketing and like you said, there's social. Social
but they got a board game.
Oh my gosh, get out of here with the board game. Yeah. All right. I mean, MTGO, although I think it's overall, approximately the same or a little bit worse than version 3, I think was the last one. I think it's overall better for actually, like, visibility and streaming and actually watching it is actually a lot better in this client. But I don't think that for whatever reason they're translating that into more viewership in terms of actually reaching out to some of the more popular personalities. Like, I guess they had Day 9 in the Community Cup, but why didn't they have him actually do something for the Magic community?
Well,
because
he does do Spell Slingers on Geek and Sundry.
Yeah, okay, he does Spell Slingers. That's not something that's like actually getting people into watching Magic as a whole. It's not like they're saying, watch the Spell Slingers and then also do this, to continue on with Magic. Like, no, it's just
I don't know. It seems like they do, but they don't. Like, they've definitely established a relationship with Day 9. They also have established a relationship with Loading Ready Run.
Yeah.
And Marshall Sutcliffe, they picked him up.
Right. From the podcast. And it seems like they do, but they don't.
A lot of these things, though, are, basically self-contained within, the Magic community, and even more specifically, the Magic Online community, almost. Because, a lot of people only play in paper, a lot, and I don't know, a lot of people don't know who some of these people are. But if
I didn't know who Day 9 was.
Yeah, I mean,
until
if Magic wants to get a lot more views, they really should be reaching out to other people who are in different things. Why don't they say, reach out to some of the Hearthstone streamers, be like, hey, were you willing to do this, Magic stream with us? I mean, maybe they can't because of their team contracts or whatever. They don't want to be attached to that type of personality.
Not only that, remember, Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro. So Hasbro has final say in everything.
Well, obviously, yeah. But I'm saying, Hasbro should be doing something in that
back
case.
To Spell Slingers, though, they have been putting in at least, D-list celebrities on Spell Slingers. Yeah. So, I mean, it's getting more known people playing.
A lot of internet personalities.
Yeah.
But again, I think that's more Felicia Day than anything else.
Wizards has an opportunity to hit a home run with this latest viral video, though. There was a Magic viral video that
with the guy that opened up
the Black Lotus.
Black Lotus, yeah.
It's everywhere on the internet. So I mean, they have a huge chance to actually get people talking about Magic the Gathering.
People talk about Magic all the time, but people aren't like actually watching it. They aren't like going out and like playing it necessarily either. Like it's weird. Like
honestly, in my day, I probably watch about at least 3 to 4 hours of Magic videos. But
we watch
to be
far
fair,
more than
it's mostly on Channel Fireball.
Yeah.
Or Star City.
But again, with the Channel Fireball and Star City, like those are pretty much self-contained within like the Magic Online community, essentially. Like not necessarily like branching out into people who might not necessarily play Magic all that much. Like,
but how would you do that? Like, what are you suggesting? I don't know, because I see what you're saying, sort of, but because, I don't know how.
I mean, Magic can be a much more like it like not necessarily interactive, but more like visually appealing game. They've been doing that a lot in the Pro Tour coverage. I've seen it get much better in the past couple of years. Like,
well, they had to because Star City was beating the crap out of them.
And that's important.
Here's something. Not just interrupting the.
Yeah. Sure, go ahead.
You've been to a Grand Prix and watched the top 8?
No.
Have you seen how empty the room is?
Yeah, there's nobody there.
No one's there. Everyone's gone.
Yep.
Vendors are packing up. This is...
that's actually...
You start with 2,000 people at a Grand Prix, and then at what should be the whole climax or the whole grand finale, like, everyone doesn't care because everyone's gone.
Yeah, why don't they have some
people
type of
just O2 drop and then they leave.
I mean, they should have a set-up stage. They did the Pro Tour.
They do other places, other games too. Like they have the feature match that is like broadcast the entire like thing. Like it's on a big screen. Like everyone in the event can see it. I mean, with Magic,
and after parties and
right.
That like again, there's lots of things that Wizards just needs to.
I've been the only like. Big scale other than like some PTQs and like Magic events. Like I've been to like an MLG, which say what you will about MLG, but like I was there to watch StarCraft at the time, and there was actually like a huge amount of like actually getting like the crowd involved because the people there, the people running MLG realized that like having a crowd excited and having a viewership excited is actually really important in terms of getting people at home watching on the stream excited.
Yep. Well, that's the thing too. It's like
getting people talking about it too. Like
you're talking about like one of the big things. I'll go even smaller. I watch one of the other things I like to watch is like competitive fighting games, like Evo and stuff. Evo, you want to talk about niche? I think that's even more niche than Magic. Because, I mean, within that niche, you got your Street Fighter people, you got your, Marvel vs. Capcom guys or whatever. But every match, and we're not even talking finals. I'm talking, every freaking match, they make, so exciting.
Yeah, but you can also see, there's, a crowd and everyone's excited. I mean, I understand that Magic is, a much slower paced game than... like a fighting game or even like Hearthstone, but even at the Hearthstone tournament at BlizzCon or whatever, they had a huge crowd. Obviously it was at BlizzCon, right? But they had a huge crowd, and they always panned to the crowd. They always showed off the crowd. But it seems like every single Magic event is either exclusive. I mean, the game itself is kind of designed to be exclusive in terms of only certain players have, all of the cards required to make their decks or whatever. But, some of that should be more accessible to people if they want to actually, to continue to be successful online, which they probably, I'm sure they do, honestly.
Yeah, it makes up a huge chunk of their profit.
Yeah.
It's MTGO is almost 50% of what they make.
Yeah, and imagine if Magic was getting the stream numbers that some of these other games are getting. Magic Online would be crazy, insane right now.
I don't even know if I'd want that. I haven't. I got rid of my Magic Online account, but I had a hard enough time staying
I
connected.
mean, they wouldn't be able to handle it with their current servers. Like everything would just crash. But I'm saying,
there's major things they still need to do with Magic Online anyway. Make guilds relevant, or clans relevant.
God. That's been such a long time coming. But they need to fix like the actual problems of the client before they do that. Like,
wasn't there like glitches where like during the pre-release or something where you play a card and it just like glitches out the game?
There was a major glitch with like the Spire Spine, like forcing a creature to block and then you tap it, and the person controlling the creature that had to block was stuck in trying to block, and they couldn't not block, right?
So they would just time.
So they time out. Yeah. That was the major glitch, but that wasn't really what I was referring to. I was referring to just the client itself just feels so slow. Like everything is just confusing. Takes forever. Yeah, it is kind of confusing. I think the deck construction is reasonable, but it's just so slow to interact with everything. Like, and I know firsthand that like I tried to buy tickets, like, you know, to play a whatever draft. It would not let me buy tickets. Like, it just glitched out like multiple times, and that is a major problem. I will admit, but if they were to get some of these, you know, massive numbers, like, people would be streaming into Magic Online, and then they would need to fix it. So I think like that's honestly, crowdsourcing is probably the best way, or not crowdsourcing. You know what I mean?
No, not crowdsourcing. I ain't giving them no money.
Not crowdsourcing. Well, they already have your money.
Washington Redskins.
I guess crowd pressure, is that basically that's a good way.
Social mob.
Yeah, I mean, speak with your wallets, everybody. But like, if there was more people playing on Magic Online, everyone just suddenly said, okay, we're all going to get on at the same time. Your servers are going to be down forever. Now they're getting no money, so they would then need to do something about it. The few amount of players that just, you know, suddenly start boycotting Magic Online, they're not even going to feel that, because honestly, there's so many people who are willing to like grind Magic Online for days and days. So really, the only way that I think it's going to get any better is if more people start playing it, because then they're going to have to do something about it.
One of the things we talked about in one of the unaired podcasts was the Duels of the Planeswalkers, the new one, and it was the worst.
Oh my god,
selling.
Well,
ever.
That's because it was actually bad. Like,
so let's hope. We'll see. But that's what I'm saying. We'll see how they actually react, because, you know, you're saying we'll hit them in the wallet.
Oh
well,
god, they're just
that game did.
I mean, it just seems like they are so slow to react to changes in like the marketplace in terms of.
I think it's one of those things where they've been around for 20 years and they're just like, well, we're fine.
Yeah, I mean, there is that aspect, and I think that there is a lot of, you know, people who will play Magic to the death. Like, you know, they're never going to stop. They're never going to give it up. Never going to give you up. Just rickrolled.
Let you down.
But I think there is that diehard fan base for Magic that doesn't exist with some of these other games. But I think that Wizards is kind of like doubling down on exploiting, you know, diehard fans rather than.
I think they just take us for granted.
Yeah. They're like basically doubling down on diehard fans. They're not necessarily reaching out to, you know, the new digital age of video games in general, honestly.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're going to call it here. If you're still with us to the end, the catchphrase is "Return of the Mac," and you got rickrolled. So, anything else you want to say, Kevin?
No, I think we covered it all. I think, well, I'll just announce this right now. I'm going to be holding a Rogue Deck of the Month tournament coming up soon, but to get into that, I am actually offering a bounty, I guess would be the right word, I'm going to start doing a challenge card, and the card for this week or a couple weeks that I'm going to have up on the website is going to be Underworld Cerberus. So if you 4-0 with an Underworld Cerberus on a standard daily, or 3-1, or if you can somehow prove to me that you did well at an FNM or a major tournament with an Underworld Cerberus, must have at least 3 to 4 copies in your deck. I have some sweet prizes So I just want to mix things up. This is my way of being a brewer, trying to get other people to brew as well.
Sounds cool.
Nice. And you can find me at my YouTube channel, which is my name, Nathan Plant. Very boring.
And watch an awesome
Oh my god. I have some
college community commercials.
You know, it really is awesome. You guys should check it out if you have a few minutes. Maybe someone will throw me a link in the video description. And there's more stuff coming that way too. And I'll post videos from time to time. You know, I'm actually building a Hearthstone video, which I know you guys are sick of that, but yeah, I'm building a Hearthstone video of my escapades with the ladder on Hearthstone, which should be interesting, probably. To somebody.
And I will be doing these things whenever I can wrangle. Whenever I can wrangle Nate into some time, which isn't easy, people, believe me.
Oh my god, yeah, I know.
And
Tell me about it.
The other thing is, like, I'm going to try to start doing a couple of videos. And I really enjoyed doing that article, so I'm actually going to be writing another one very shortly on a modern deck I made. And then the other thing is, on my channel, I kind of briefly mentioned I'm into wrestling. I'm going to start doing a wrestling podcast with one of my buddies from high school, so check that out. Oh, and we may actually be recording some role-playing games between me, Nate, and a couple of
that's probably a long time out and coming though. I need to work on my storytelling before that's actually a thing.
Yeah, but that's everything. So hope you guys enjoyed the return of the podcast. Again, hopefully it'll be a little more consistent now, but there's no telling, so who knows. So for Nate Plant, Kevin Crimin, this is MJ Conroy, aka Sith Lord 066, and you guys have a great day.